Hey y'all, I'm Tess Holliday, and welcome to my slumber party. Each week, I'm going to introduce you to folks who are making the world a better place. So put on your pajamas, grab a snack, and let's change the world from our bedroom. Hey y'all, welcome to my slumber party. Thanks for being here. And remember to follow, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm so happy to have y'all hanging out with me for another slumber party. And I'm even happier to introduce my guest to you guys, who is an incredible mother and activist, Lavern Rushin. Hi, Lavern.
Hi, Tess. Thank you and honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such an honor. And I want to tell you guys quickly how I know Lavern and a little bit about her. So we met pretty recently. Well, I would say, I don't even know, a few months ago under some pretty intense circumstances. So we have a mutual friend who was a guest on my podcast a few weeks ago, Soraya Hamidi. Soraya listening, she always knows. I just always got to mess up her name. So Soraya Hamidi, or the IG activist, as you guys are familiar with her, was working with Lavern's case, which we're going to talk a little bit about just in the beginning to give you guys an idea. So Soraya was helping Lavern because Lavern, her son, Matthew Rushin, was given a 10-year jail sentence because of an accident. And really what it boils down to is he is a Black man with autism. And we're going to talk more about that. That's, in my opinion, why he was incarcerated. And, you know, we're able to at least say now that he is no longer incarcerated. And that is the power of the internet, the power of Lavern. And I just want to share her story and Matthew's story with you guys because there are far too few stories like Matthew and Lavern's out there. And, you know, what good is it to have a platform if you're not doing it to try and create change? So I just want to say, I told you this before we went live, Lavern, but I'm immensely honored to know you and to have you as my guest today. And I can't wait for the world to hear more about you guys.
Likewise, honor to me too. Oh my gosh. No crying.
No, I almost did. Well, Lavern brought Matthew on a little bit ago for me to meet him and say hello. And it was kind of surreal seeing Matthew sitting beside you. This is, you know, I've seen you guys on, on my phone and followed, everything that's gone on, and to be able to see him sitting next to you, and like, it's impossible to not cry. And I'm emotional from my little one's birthday yesterday, and like, just, but yeah, I'm just sending you a big hug virtually.
Virtual hug, yes.
Today, we're going to talk about what it means to be a mother in unexpectedly challenging circumstances, how Lavern is fighting against unfair treatment of both people who are Black in America, as well as people who are neuro-divergent and have special needs. So we are just, that's the joys of slumber parties, you guys, is that you're sitting down with your friends and sometimes you just jump right into the juicy stuff. And that's just what we're doing. So before we get into, the heart of this, we're going to have a little bit of fun. So can you tell us, everybody, what you're wearing, Lavern, what pajamas you picked for today?
Okay, so when I had Matthew 23 years ago, I had this blue satin pajamas. And can you believe this pajamas is 23 years old? So I wore it. My favorite, it's the satin, and I always kept it. Obviously, it's a breastfeeding satin pajamas, but I thought it would be really thoughtful to just wear it, in his honor. I haven't given it up, and I'm not going to.
No, well, first of all, I have to say, I noticed when I came in that you look incredibly stunning. That it's the model in me, because the color with your skin tone and your lip color is beautiful.
Oh.
But also, that what you have on is very on trend right now. The like satin pajamas has like a look going out. So first of all, I can't believe that it's 23 years old.
It's 23 years
Look at you.
old.
She's for those of you not watching on YouTube, she just kind of showed it off a little bit, but I can't. Mine would not fit. So I mean, I don't know if I'm more amazed that you're on trend still from 23 years ago or that it still fits.
Yeah, I was in the Navy actually. I was just getting out of the Navy, and I probably weighed like just under 100 pounds. So this actually fit me as a maternity pajamas.
Wow. And look at
Yeah.
you, still glowing, still looking great. Wow,
Thank you.
that's goals because it's I still have stuff from when Bowie was little, but Riley, he's 15. There's nothing from that era that I would want to bring back. It was not cute.
Well, 15 years ago, wasn't it bell bottoms and
yeah.
It was like the funky, like the big dresses, right?
Yes, yeah,
Maybe?
and I had and I wore Crocs when I was pregnant, and now
Oh, yeah.
Crocs are super popular now, but when I wore them, no, everyone made fun of me, but, they just didn't know I was a trendsetter, Laverne.
Right? They need to get updated.
They do. So, today I'm wearing, some black comfy bike shorts, and then I'm wearing this shirt that a designer did, which I forgot the name, but I'll tag it later. So this shirt was 100% of the proceeds went to raise money for BLM. So my shirt just says, "None of us are free until we're all free."
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was an appropriate shirt,
so cute.
to wear. So, because it's true, none of us are free till we're all free. So don't forget it, y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then our snacks for today. Laverne, you had told us that you love pineapple juice and like a fruit salad, right?
Yeah.
I dropped my fruit salad walking out my door. So, so I have granola bars and a pineapple juice here today.
I've got strawberries.
Look at you.
Got strawberries.
She just pulled up the most perfectly cut, prepared strawberries, you guys.
I normally buy them and like I freeze them and I do smoothies with them. So yeah, strawberries.
Yum. Look at you. I love all the mom energy today on the podcast, you guys. So before we get into the game, I'm just going to discuss my week quickly. So this past week, I bought my first car in 11 years. Yeah.
Yay!
Thanks. And it was a big deal for me because I've talked about it kind of, on social media. I was going to say a little bit, but a lot. I was in an abusive relationship for 8 years, and a lot of people don't always understand that sometimes with abuse, while I haven't gone into specifics of mine because it's not necessary, but part of abuse isn't always verbal, mental, physical. Sometimes it's like the control aspect. And because of that, I was not able to buy the car that I wanted. And now that I can, I did. And I originally thought, I was going to buy this crazy flashy car, right? I was going to, have this Mercedes and drive around because I could. And then I thought, what? Like, I don't need to prove anything to anybody. This is just me. I can get what I want. So I bought the car that I wanted, which was I just bought a Jeep, and I love my Jeep. And the reason that I'm kind of saying all of this is that for me, I took it to my friends. They drove it around, all my friends that have like been in my life, and celebrated me. And it was such a powerful moment.
Aww.
Yeah, because like they've been through all of it. They've seen
all of it with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes, true friends.
true friends.
True friends.
Yeah. And we took it driving around, and I just cried because to be out on the other side, like for me, I was kind of giving myself a hard time because I thought most people view me as like, a quote unquote celebrity, right? So they expect this like certain level, I think, of
The
things. And
level of
yes.
celebrified type of vehicle, type
Yeah.
the way you look, type. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got
Yeah.
it.
So for me to be like this person, like talking about how much it meant to me to buy this like Jeep and celebrate with my friends, at first I was kind of giving myself a hard time. And then I thought, no, like it's really nice to be able to
Just be
celebrate.
you.
Yes, to just be me and to
Yes,
celebrate this.
yes.
Okay, Laverne, are you ready to play a game?
Oh, yay.
Yay. So we are going to play Two Truths and a Lie. Are you familiar with this game?
Mhm.
Okay. So when you're ready, you can hit me with your two truths and a lie, and I am going to try to figure out which which one is a lie.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I love to travel. I have a bird. I have a dog.
I'm going to say I'm going to say that the dog is a lie.
Yay!
Yay! Wait, what's your bird's name? What kind of bird do you have?
Loretta, she was just in the background yelling Matthew's name. She yells like she'll say Matthew, 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 and I was hoping you'd hear her, but yeah, she was
Oh,
just in the background yelling his name.
I love that. I thought I heard a bird, but I was like, maybe I'm losing my mind. I
Yeah,
wasn't.
no, she's a parrot. She's an African
Oh,
Jardine.
how long have you
Yeah,
had her?
I'm sorry.
How long?
18 years. She's gonna live until she's like in her 50s. That's human years. So she'll probably outlive me.
Parrots live that long?
Yeah, they live like 50 years or so.
Wow. That's wild. I had
Yeah.
no I was just talking about this with somebody because I love birds, and I'm like, I can't have a pet bird because I have two cats, but
Oh,
I know if I want to keep the bird for 50 years, then um
oh my goodness.
but I always think people that have birds are like such special people because they're having a bird is like it's I feel like it's so much different than having like a dog running around or something.
Yeah. Well, Loretta, her name's Loretta. Loretta was very therapeutic and still is very therapeutic for Matthew because Matthew started stuttering at the age of 6. And
Wow.
so by him talking to Loretta, he he outgrew the stuttering because he was talking to her and she learned from him. So like whatever he would say to her, she would repeat it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so special.
Yeah.
I love
So they have a
that.
very special bond. Yep.
Well, when Matthew's president, Loretta can be the first parrot in the White House.
First bird, right?
I love that.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
thanks for playing with me and being a good sport. That was wow.
Aw.
So, I guess I want to ask you, like,
Yeah.
you have had not on top of just the pandemic, but having, your child incarcerated and not knowing what was going to happen. What has it been like for him being out and to be able to celebrate with your community and your family that I'm sure like held your hand through such a horrific time?
Um, it's been a relief. It's also been very stressful too as well because obviously the trauma of being wrongfully convicted and having the what ifs and the compounded with he shouldn't have been there in the first place. You have all that 27 months of trauma and he was also attacked several times while he was in there. Then he, caught COVID. And so being out in the community is both a relief and stressful at the same time if you can understand where he is mentally. Um, every day for us is a struggle. And like even with him leaving now to go out with a friend, you know, we kind of have to convince him it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to go out. He signed up for classes. He starts the fall semester at Tidewater Community College, which took a huge step for him to do. But once he understood this is what I need to do to start my healing, and even with the community itself, like we went to lunch the other day and the restaurant owner recognized us and immediately he called me over to the register and he said, I just want you to know that this meal is on us. He said, I've been watching your son's story from what I heard from the original story, which was the night of the accident, the police's narrative, and then your narrative then superseded that. He said, I have a son and I would have probably done the same thing, fight for him. So our community has, given us the support, that we needed, that we do need. But again, just kind of looking at everyday life for Matthew, it is a struggle.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day.
Thank you for sharing that with me. And also I that's part of why, I've told you I admire you so much, but that why I wanted to have you on is because there's so many folks that they don't think about this because it's not their reality. And I think it's really important to have stories like yours and Matthew's shared because, I hope that it helps prevent something so horrible that other things like this happening to other families, and also just helps people be a bit more mindful of how they're treating other folks that, when they're moving through life. I'm glad you had that support. You should have been like, are all my meals free forever? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, community is so important, but I hope that you're able to take the time to heal and do all of that because, just because you're tough doesn't mean you have to always be.
Oh, yeah,
So,
there's many days I just want to crawl in my bed and just stay there and cry and cry. And, you know, um, again, the release process to getting him home, was a huge step. But now that he's home, it's a bigger healing process. Nobody hears that crying, when he's crying in the middle of the night. Or if you can look at your 5-year-old and see him crying, that's me looking at Matthew right now.
yeah.
And let's say your 5-year-old doesn't understand what is going on and he's in a frantic panic. Can you imagine that being Matthew right now? And it's an unbearable pain because you don't know what to do except to sit there and just listen, because nothing you can say will console him, because we haven't been through what he's gone through.
Yeah.
So it is, it's a pain. People always say, oh yeah, great, he's home. Yeah, no, there's healing. There's a healing process after that. And our fight, Tess, is not over. We are seeking his full exoneration. At the end of, I will, let you know on this podcast, we are going to seek his full exoneration. That paperwork will be filed with the court system at the end of the month, and we want all of this gone.
As you should. When I don't believe if it was through through text with you. I want to say that it was, but when I saw that he was released, I obviously, and we all knew that he was being released because you were great at keeping us all updated, and Soraya was keeping me updated as well. But I didn't even realize that that wasn't it until you were like, "No, he's not even exonerated, and we have to do this." And I just thought our justice
Yeah, those
system really doesn't give a crap
no,
about
and the
folks.
sad part about it is the charges were not vacated. He still has a commuted sentence of 30 years. So if he even jaywalks, or if he even, does something to where, as simple as maybe swiping his debit card or something, something to that effect, he can go back to jail. He can go back to full prison to serve out his 30 years. He was sentenced to 50 years. The pardon commuted it to 30 years, um, with 10 years to hang over him. But still, it's not a life to live at all. The pardon only released him, allowed him to come home early. And Tess, I will tell you, our hearts go out to the other family, the man that was hurt. Every day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't pray for them, that I
Yeah.
don't think about them. And what I want them to understand is that no matter what the narrative was that came from the prosecutor, that's his job to prosecute. That's his job to prosecute. But what I'm saying is that it was not intentional. That it was an accident. It was not intentional at all. And I know they were brainwashed probably by the you know the prosecutor, but I will, from my heart to theirs, I wish I could take their pain away. Matthew's the same way. Matthew said he wishes he could take their pain away. He even said it in court. Um, but it was an accident, Tess. Truly an accident.
For those, and I have, and just so we're clear, I believe you. I believe you guys. It's it's very obvious to a lot of us that it was an accident. And if you're comfortable with telling us, so for a lot of the listeners and viewers that might not know, and you can say as much or as little as you want, um, because there might be some that aren't familiar with
Or
the
with the
case.
story,
Do
yeah.
you feel comfortable, I guess,
Oh,
sharing?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Matthew is a young Black autistic young man sentenced to 50 years for a non-fatal car accident caused by a seizure. And the night of January 4th, 2019, Matthew left home. It was raining. He went into a parking lot. A man ran a stop sign, hit Matthew. When he hit Matthew, Matthew then like went into full meltdown. Obviously, he's autistic.
Mm.
He left that accident and went down a street. He knew he had to get back to that accident. When he made the U-turn to get back to that accident, he lost consciousness. We have a crash report from a crash expert of almost 35 years that actually said that it was an accident. He read the black box data on Matthew's vehicle and could tell and can read it and say that Matthew actually was coming out of a seizure when he hit the other vehicle. One of Matthew's processes is echolalia, and echolalia is when someone repeats words that they hear, or an autistic individual repeats segments of words that they hear. When Matthew came out of his vehicle, there was an angry man yelling, "Are you effing trying to kill yourself? Are you effing trying to kill yourself?" So now Matthew repeats those words, "Kill myself, kill myself." That took the narrative of the prosecution to say that Matthew was trying to commit suicide, and he wasn't. He was not trying to commit suicide. Mind you, so if Everybody at the accident was taken to the hospital. Matthew was never taken to the hospital. The reason why Matthew was not taken to the hospital was because they knew he had a seizure. They knew that he was epileptic. 2 years prior to that, those same police officers found Matthew at an accident unconscious. So all of them knew that Matthew was epileptic.
Mm. So the same police officers, the day of the accident where he was found, where they wrongfully convicted him, were the same ones from 2 years prior. So they knew
Correct.
him, they knew his history.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. The color of Matthew's skin convicted him.
Absolutely.
Because the day we went into arraignment, Matthew was arrested that Friday. The Tuesday we went into arraignment, the prosecutor walking out of the courtroom immediately said, he's done. It's going to be 50 years. I'm going to see it. Didn't even give him an opportunity. Didn't even, give him the opportunity, Matthew's defense opportunity to say that, he's prone to seizures. He had a traumatic brain injury from 2 years ago. None of that ever played into Matthew's defense. None of it. And Matthew's lawyer, that's another situation. We thought we could trust her. At the end of sentencing, when he was sentenced to that 50 years, a month later, we were sitting in court when Matthew filed for the appeal. She was selected to become a judge. She was...
Wow.
Yeah. She was applying to become a judge while she was handling Matthew's case. So obviously she sold him to the wolves. We didn't know that until he filed for the appeal, and we were sitting in court, and everybody was thanking her. I mean, not thanking her, but congratulating her, congratulations. And we all looked at each other like, why are they congratulating her? And then one attorney who saw us, who knew, of Matthew's case and was kind of familiar with us, he turned around and he was like, yeah, how do you like sitting on the bench? And we were like, oh my God, she's a judge.
This is all absolutely horrific. And I am so sorry that you guys have had to all go through this. And the fact that you were having to go through all of this and knowing that you were not going to be able to see your son, knowing that he probably was not going to be getting the proper care that he needed while incarcerated, wrongfully incarcerated, and then having someone that was supposed to fight for you do that is horrific.
I was sitting literally a hand's length from him, and they told me if I said anything to him that I would be in contempt of court and I would be arrested. I couldn't even tell him I love him.
I'm so sorry.
I couldn't say anything to him. And I knew, and we've exposed so many lies on this case. They said they had videos. They said they had videos of Matthew speeding down the road. They didn't have any videos. They said they had videos. That's how they were able to charge Matthew that night with second-degree attempted murder. They submitted to the magistrate that they had videos showing the accident, showing that Matthew drove straight into the other vehicle. They didn't have any videos. None. They withdrew their statement after I started releasing all the videos that I had, and which was the videos that they said they had. It showed nothing. It showed storefront property. So they're allowed to lie to magistrates to get these charges indicted.
I mean, of course they are. When you know, I have only been doing advocacy for the past few years. And the more you learn about how America in particular treats folks of color, especially Black men,
Special needs.
um, and special needs on top of that, we always talk about, mental health and all of this in America, but we do nothing to support those, especially when in mental health crisis. I mean, there should have never been cops on the site to when there was someone that had special needs and that needed someone with mental health expertise. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to completely neglect his physical health and then on top of the mental health and is appalling. And when we in particular, and when I say we, I mean me, when we talk about like defunding the police and that the police, while I know a lot of people like to say, but there are some good individuals, you are working for a system that was literally founded on white supremacy and that purposefully harms folks of color and targets them. Cases like your son's are a perfect example of them not caring about Black lives so much that they want to throw them into prison because it's modern day, in my opinion, slavery. Because if they're
Yes.
locked away, then they can't be on the streets.
That's called legal lynching.
Yeah.
Legal lynching. And he would have been locked away for 10 years. And if they had their way, it would have probably been 50 years without taking him out back and shooting him.
So when Matthew was arrested, did you expect the case to develop like it did? Or did you think like that he would be allowed some kind of justice?
I trusted the system. We trusted the system. And that's because Matthew's cousin here in Virginia Beach was the sergeant for our area. And I'm prior military. And obviously I work for the federal government too as well. And we trusted the system to do the right thing. I have literally Matthew's mental health records that thick. I have all of Matthew's medical records, and I thought by presenting that in court, which we didn't realize that that's not, you can't even present someone's mental health in court unless they're pleading insanity here in the state of Virginia. And we changed that. Matthew changed that law. Matthew's story was so instrumental in changing the laws here that now you are able, as come July 1st,
Yes.
you are able to present the mental health of anyone that is arrested, and it has to be considered from the very beginning of a case.
I mean, this is why you're a badass. First of all. Second of all, I can't even believe that it's 2021 and they are not considering someone's mental health when you are trying to prosecute someone for a crime. Because you can't, that's like, you have the big picture in front of you and you're like, no, I just need this like tiny little crumb and I'll just figure it out on my own. You're trying to put a puzzle together without all of the pieces. That's baffling.
Yeah, I mean, any autistic individual, you can't even say that they're autistic in let's say pretrial or let's say arraignment. That could have never been somebody's defense. And now you can present that from the beginning. You can, say this was part of his process, just like Matthew, using Matthew as an example. Now, if this had happened yesterday, we could have gone to arraignment and say, okay, Matthew has a process. It's called achalalia. And guess what? That is why he repeated, kill myself. Not necessarily that he wanted to do it, but that's part of his process. Those are the type of things and evidence that are now permitted to be presented in court. I'm working with a lot of other legislators to get other laws passed. But we need change, and we need, first and foremost, compassion. I think compassion is what is lacking in the judicial system. And it can't always be about conviction. It
Yeah.
cannot be about conviction. There has to be justice. And if justice is looking at someone's mental history and knowing that the person either is prone to seizures, is, you know, whatever the case is, compassion will give understanding to what the situation is before judging harshly.
Absolutely. Um, you're right. Things do need to change, and if anyone knows that, it's you and your family. What what would you like to see changed? What kind of reform, as someone that knows all of this better than anyone, unfortunately, what do you feel like needs to change, especially to support those like Matthew?
I think police reform in the criminal justice system, definitely police reform, more training. I know, there's a lot of people out there that are saying even though you train the police, they're not, it takes that one individual police officer to say, I'm going to do the right thing and know the right from wrongs,
Yes.
which it is true. It's true on all levels that um, you have to be able as a police officer to say, okay, I'm going to do the right thing, and or figure out how to do the right thing. um, I think by training these police officers, whether they're racist or not, will hold them accountable, give them the training that they need to handle crisis. And the other part of the reform that I'm hoping for is that, and in New York City just implemented this. Instead of sending police
Mhm.
officers out to a mental health crisis, they are now sending a mental health unit, which is comprised of psychologists, social workers, and possibly somebody that is affiliated with the police department, but is not a police officer.
Mm.
And that's what we need, is across the board on a federal level, that if anybody is in a mental health crisis and or is at the scene, recognized to have to be autistic, to have mental illness, to have a disability, another unit needs to be there.
Absolutely. Imagine America actually caring about mental health
Hmm.
crises. Imagine how far we would be along because
Right?
it's baffling. Driving through LA even, there's so many people I saw, and this is not exactly on topic, but I'm coming around. I'm a long storyteller, Laverne, but
No,
um,
no, no, you're good.
I was on TikTok and where I learn all kinds of things, and there was a video of this girl making fun of some houseless. It's my version of homeless. Some houseless individuals in the streets of LA, saying, what they tell you LA is going to look like, and then they show like all these fancy buildings, and then it was saying
Right.
versus what it's like, and it's all of these houseless individuals. And she was saying, wow, like some of these people are living better than us. And the reality is it's easy for people to make fun of individuals like that, but they wouldn't be in those positions if America prioritized mental health in the way that they should, and if there was support for individuals like that. And while I know, being Black in America is the most dangerous thing you can be.
Hmm.
When you are Black and have, mental health, concerns, issues, your special needs, things like that. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know?
Right.
So I
And then you
just,
add houseless on top of that. Where do you
Yes.
get, where do you get the help? Where do
Yes.
you get the resources from when, you know, not to go off topic, but
No,
even
go
in
ahead.
prison, even in prison, you, there's no resources. They're giving, you know, they're giving the classes, the community help to guys that are serving 20, 30, 40 years than to the guys that are serving the 1, the 2 Z's, the 3 Z's. And those are the guys that need the help,
Yes.
to say they're going to go back into society. How do you help them get back into society? How do you give them the resources to get back? And for the houseless too, I live in Hampton Roads, and Hampton Roads is the largest veteran community
Mm.
here. And the veterans that are homeless, not homeless, houseless,
Yes.
are like, you feel, you almost feel helpless because they have given their lives to our country,
Yeah.
and you know yet they're out on the streets.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
It's embarrassing. It really is.
Mhm.
It's embarrassing. It's heartbreaking. Um, you know, anyone that, you know, I say this with love, but this is a point of, you know, this is kind of like a sensitive topic with like me and some of my family members because I'm from Mississippi and a lot of them listen to my podcast. And I know
Mhm.
that a lot of my family won't listen to this one because they think that, I'm lying or it's, people aren't treated any differently because of the color of their skin. And I
No,
just think like,
they
what
are.
world are you living in? Look around, literally look around.
Mhm.
Um, and there's a big problem. There's a lot of problems in America, but in particular, the way that we treat veterans, the way we treat folks of color, all of that is deplorable. So, you know,
Absolutely.
it's, I wish that none of this ever happened to you or your family, but the power that you have to be able to make change and, help others not have to suffer in the way you did is so admirable and you don't have to do it.
You.
But I just love
If
you so much. I
you
really do.
all you all gave me the strength I needed. Waking
Yeah.
up every day to inbox messages from you, from others. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, gave me the strength to fight. And even now, there's days where I don't know what how to feel. And I get a message from you or I get a message from somebody. It just gives me more reason to fight and to,
Yeah.
there's so many Matthew Rushins out there
There are.
that I am not only fighting for Matthew, I'm fighting for everybody else out there because we need change, and
Yes.
we also need to recognize that the criminal justice system needs a total overhaul
Yes.
from top to bottom. And we need to start looking at mass incarceration. We need to start looking at those that have been in the what is it 3 strikes you're out
Yeah.
for marijuana, possession of marijuana. Well, now they're legalizing
I
marijuana.
know.
So 3 strikes you're out and
Yeah.
you're in prison for 50 years. Can you imagine how many people, and then when Matthew we talk, there's people in there for substance abuse. Okay,
Yeah.
substance abuse, put them in a program.
Thank you.
Get them the help they need.
Yeah.
Prison is not a place for rehab. I mean, yeah, you're able to rehab, but it's not where um, people need to be if they have a substance abuse problem or any of that.
Or
It
special
really isn't,
needs.
and it's yeah, or
Yeah.
special needs
Mm-hmm.
exactly. If you're autistic, and autism is not a crime at all. Being autistic is absolutely not a crime.
Yeah.
And my heart breaks it took Matthew's story, took Matthew to for this to happen, for me to realize that the criminal justice system needs a total overhaul. Total
Does.
overhaul.
It does. And like you said, mass incarceration is not the answer. It's a big business.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Privatized.
Yes, there are a lot of businesses that you guys know and love that use prison labor and that don't
Yeah.
compensate them fairly. And over 90% of Black men incarcerated have not even had a trial. So in America, so there's another statistic for you guys.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. You mentioned his autism, and I just wanted to kind of like go back a little bit to what it was like when Matthew was diagnosed as autistic, and you know what I guess what it was like for you and your family, and you know, kind of where you guys are now, with everything.
So Matthew was diagnosed at an early age, ADHD. Matthew was a C-section baby.
Mm.
He had a speech delay. He also was diagnosed with a language recognition disorder. So it pretty much started at a young age where we kind of saw the trend. Um, in eighth grade, no, was it? I'm sorry, in sixth grade, Matthew was 12. He was then diagnosed with what they called back in the days Asperger's, and that was autistic on the spectrum. And so we kind of knew we needed to, work with him to figure out what he needed as far as school. He was on an IEP. Um, it it actually, I think, the care for somebody or an autistic individual or an autistic child starts from home.
Mm.
The acceptance that your child is autistic and being able to embrace that will help that child succeed. Matthew loved music. Matthew played the viola.
Mm.
He was in orchestra from, I think it was fifth grade all the way up to 12th grade. We embraced his ability to overcome the, what they would call disability, but in the interim, still helping him be successful, because you can't be successful without a support system.
Yeah.
And I think that's what helped Matthew succeed. I mean, I tell him this every day. If I had his articulation, I'd be president of the United States. I mean, sometimes I have to be like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me Google what you just said. let me just Google this word. But he's such a wonderful glow of light in anybody's life.
Yeah.
Always.
Y-
He's a musician. He's a poet. He's a photographer.
Mm.
Yeah, he's everything. And now he's changed his major. He wants to do speech pathology to help children just like him, because he was bullied in school and he knows what it's like to be bullied for being different.
Yeah.
He was that kid that sat, on the swings during recess by himself.
Mm.
So he knows, he absolutely knows, what it is. And he wants to become a speech pathologist to help other children.
Of course he does, because he has the most beautiful heart. And, I've talked about this on my podcast a bit, that for me, I always, when I meet somebody, it doesn't matter who they are, I'm a very emotional being. And I used to kind of, I pick on myself a lot and I call myself a crybaby, but really I am able to connect with people on a different level emotionally. And I pick up on people's, energy. And Matthew has such beautiful energy. I felt so calm, even in just the couple minutes. He has a very just calm sense to him. And I know that that's
Demeanor,
not
yeah.
always the case, right? Because none of us are.
Right.
But you just feel it, and he does have a glow, and it's I think that's what makes all of this so much more frustrating, is that, like you said, there's so many individuals like Matthew that
Mm-hmm.
may never get to leave the prison system because the system was designed to fail them. And so to be able to see him and to see who he is, I want more people like that. Like you said, we need more compassion. We need more
Mm-hmm.
people to view folks like Matthew as an actual human being, So what's next for Matthew? So he's going to school, because I want to kind of like end uh on like a happy note, really, about Matthew and who he is. And he's so young. He has his whole life ahead of him, and he wouldn't have
Yeah.
if it wasn't for your work. So, what does he wants to be a speech pathologist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, what is he most excited about?
Just life in general. He's
Mm,
just excited about where, he's going to be. I mean, he's got I believe he has such a bright future ahead of him, despite the last 27 months, stolen from him, ripped away from us. He's moving forward with his education. He wants to continue his education and become a speech pathologist. He does have some health issues that we're going to work through. He has a cyst on his pituitary gland
mm,
that might need surgery to be removed. But I think he's got a bright future. I think what this is also going to do is going to give him a step in advocating for others.
yes.
Um, he's always talking about the guys that he left behind, that he knows that, need help. One of the things that he talked about was actually getting the senators and the delegates in the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, to um, get more resources out to those guys that he's left behind, because he knows what he's gone through. Um, and even with the pandemic, PPE was very hard for them to get through the pandemic. Any type of medication was pretty much hard to get. So even living that life in prison and being able to see what is lacking in there, I think he's going to be a shining star to advocate for others that, he's left behind.
He absolutely is. And, maybe a reframe. Maybe he hasn't left them behind, because he's still there, and you
Yeah.
guys definitely aren't alone. You guys have so much love and support around you. And listen, once I love you, you're just stuck with me forever. So
Same here.
so I don't
Same
know if you
here.
wanted a fat, loud, tattooed kid, but here I am.
Oh.
um but
Definitely.
you guys aren't alone. How can those listening and watch support you guys?
So, obviously, we're still fighting for Matthew. Obviously, I still have Matthew's attorney's fees, legal fees that we pay on a monthly basis. So I still have my GoFundMe out there as well, and any little contribution would be good.
Yeah.
Matthew's co-pays for all of his doctor's appointments. I mean, he has weekly doctor's appointments and health, mental health appointments. So I still have my GoFundMe out there. We might have to end up in the Supreme Court. And if we do, it's not going to be cheap.
Mm. So everyone listening and watching, I will this will be linked on YouTube, and I will also link this as well on Instagram in my bio and in
Oh,
stories.
thank you, thank you,
Because
thank you.
listen, y'all should not have to pay for anything, especially something that was, clearly an accident, something that was done to you guys. I feel like what is hard for me to hear in all of that is at the beginning of this podcast, you said that you're trying to heal, and that's the part that people don't talk about. And
Mhm.
we need to give space to those that are healing, especially folks of color, folks with special needs. And how can you heal if you're looking at this mountain of debt for literally nothing,
Yeah.
So we will definitely link that. And I have two questions before we go. One, I just want to know, Mama, what does self-care look like to you? What are you doing like when you're, you work, you're a mom, you're an advocate now. How are you looking after yourself? What does self-care look like to you?
Self-care is taking a shower, putting on my favorite pajamas, and being on my iPad.
I love that.
Oh my gosh, I don't have a routine for self-care, and I probably need to, because
Mm,
there's some days where I am literally mentally and physically exhausted, and that's because I'm constantly thinking of the next step for Matthew. I'm
yeah.
constantly, like today, talking to his attorney. It's just my mind is constantly working on the next step,
Mhm.
and how are we going to get through this? So I probably need to figure out some type of self care for Laverne, because Laverne has none.
I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you.
Oh,
I'm gonna help you implement some self-care. If there's one thing I'm good at, it is making sure that everyone else takes care of themselves. I'm not great at it. I'm working on it.
okay.
But
So we'll work on it together.
yes, I'm gonna check in with you more if that's okay. I'm just gonna text you
Yeah.
and make sure. And before we go, the thing I ask all my guests is, how did you show your self-love today?
Oh my gosh, by being with you. Oh my God. Like,
Oh.
oh my gosh, yes, by being with you. I just admire your beauty. I admire your beauty does not come just from outside. It's in your heart and your soul. And I just, again, I've looked at your podcast. I follow you on IG, and
Yeah.
you are absolutely beautiful. And that's my way of showing myself self-love, because I can sit and have a conversation with you, and you're it's almost like a weight has been just lifted off my shoulders,
Oh.
and like we connected like immediately.
Yeah.
And you know and that's that's a blessing, when you can connect with somebody so quickly. And like, I can see that we've probably known each other for like
Yeah.
years. Like,
I knew you
seriously.
in a previous life, I'm sure of it.
You're right. Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Well,
Definitely.
this was definitely my way of showing myself love. I was nervous about meeting you, only not I
Aw.
knew that you would be exactly who you were, but you know, I have followed you guys since I found out what happened, and so to be able just to share this space and time with you and to share, Matthew's story with others, is not something that I take lightly, and I feel immensely grateful to share this space with you and to call you a friend. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a better friend. I'm gonna send you like dumb dog memes. I'm gonna send you some face masks. We're
Yes.
gonna all of it. Um, where can folks find you guys on social media?
So it's the free Matthew Rushin on Facebook. All you have to do is type that in, and the
Okay.
blog automatically populates. And on Instagram, it's Justice the number 4, Matthew, Matthew, Rushin, Rushin.
Perfect.
That's on Instagram.
Laverne, I just want to thank you so much for being my guest today and being so vulnerable and such a light, such a badass. I will be with you. We will make sure that Matthew gets exonerated, and I'm sending you so much love. And I just want to thank you again for hanging out at my slumber party with me.
Thank you. It was an honor.
No, I will argue with you about the honor because the honor was mine. Thank you to everyone at home at your own slumber party for tuning in. And remember, if you were listening to this episode, you can also check us out on YouTube. And if you were watching this episode, you can also listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to follow, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, y'all.